Hope you're all having a super fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Porchlight Letters podcast number 2373. And today the question we're answering is, what if family stories were intentionally erased? It's a very good question. Some stories were not forgotten, they were removed. And there are different reasons why stories will get removed. They oftentimes, when they are erased, which means that they're not passed on, the people who they happen to may try to forget about it, but the story dies with them. It often reflects fear or shame, something that happened in their lifetime that they were ashamed of, or something that they were fearful of. So they don't pass that information on. They don't talk about it. The story dies with them. It's all their secrets and everything else. Name changes will hide identities. So when people, for whatever reason, decide to go out and change their name, why did they change their name? What caused them to change their name? Were they hiding from something? Were they ashamed to return to their family unit, their family from war or something? Did they have something bad that happened to them, and it happened in their family, and they wanted to remove themselves from that situation? Sometimes we never find out why somebody changed their name. Sometimes we can actually find the person and find out that their name was changed, and we find them that way. But sometimes we're left in the dark as to why they changed their name. What happened to them to cause them to change their name? It could be that they could even be in an early form of witness protection program. Who knows? You don't know. They could have changed their name because they were fearful for something that they had witnessed that they shouldn't have witnessed. They could be ashamed of something that they did, and the only way to get out of it, to turn their life around, was to change their name and hide their identity. Hidden relationships reshape narratives. This is when you had hidden relationships, things like affairs. There was those affairs with a single woman that resulted in a child. There were affairs where somebody was married and they had an affair with somebody else. And so sometimes those hidden relationships reshape narratives. I have come across stories where a couple were married and the wife had an affair, which resulted in a pregnancy. And she went on to have that child, and the husband forced her to give the child away. He was not going to have anything to do with it. And so now that all got hidden in the family history, that story, because it was the husband didn't want anything to do with the child that she had by another man. So he didn't break off the relationship with her. He stuck with her because he believed in his marriage vows, but he was not going to raise somebody else's child. So the child was given away, and then there's a whole story that comes out with that. Oops, better put some juice in. So I've come across a couple of stories like that, where one of them's had a child with somebody else, and the father couldn't take the child. The mother couldn't keep the child because her husband was saying no, and so she literally put the child up for adoption. So there's things like that too. Family rewrites stories to survive. If they're going through war, they were in concentration camps, they were in prisoner of war camps, they were detained for some reason, they fled for political persecution or religious persecution. They may rewrite their story in order to survive, to make them sound like, no, I didn't come from that area. Because as we talked about yesterday, when people came to America and that as part of the religious persecution or political persecution, they didn't know who they could trust. So they kept very quiet about their background. They kept quiet about their history because they didn't want it getting to the wrong person in case they got persecuted. So there's those sorts of things too, where they rewrite the story in order to survive. We never lived in this country. We lived in this country over here and did it. And then years later, when you're starting to put the pieces together, you're coming across, hang on, I've got a lot of inconsistencies here. And so when you start digging deeper, you may find the true story. And a lot of times it was because they didn't know who to trust, and they wanted to survive. They didn't want to be persecuted for their political beliefs or their religious beliefs or whatever it was that they were escaping from. And so therefore, later generations then inherit gaps without explanation. And like you said, well, we've got this here where our second great grandparents came to America, but where did they come from? And yes, you can go back through the immigration records, but they may have since changed their name. So if they've changed their name, you've now got to figure out what their name was. Then you can go to the immigration records and figure things out that way. Did they apply for US citizenship? Did they get it? And I will tell you this, the earlier naturalization naturalization applications were full of amazing genealogical details. The husband is the only one that could apply. His wife could not apply for citizenship because she automatically, at that time, automatically got her citizenship under her husband along with his children. So on the citizenship form, it had to put where and when he was born, who he was married to and where and when they were born, where and when he got married, how many children he has, and the names of those children and their birth dates and where they were born. Now, that's just a little bit of woohoo. We love those sorts of details. And so you've got to go and verify the facts because he's taking it from memory. Does he, there are rumors out there, same rumors, that some men are not great with dates. So unless his wife was helping him with the dates, you still have to go and fact check everything that's on that form because he may have got the dates a little screwy. You never know, but it's one way of doing that. And all this matters because intentional erasures create confusion and emotional distance for those that come later on in life. And they can do some digging to try and find some answers. And sometimes we can find the details, sometimes we cannot. Sometimes we will exhaust everything. And I don't have my little book with me. I've got my little genealogy standards book, which I've shown many times, but it's in a box, almost here. So that book tells us that we are done when we have exhausted every single possible source out there that would help us find that information. And again, sometimes you might have to go to siblings of parents and grandparents and stuff to find those missing pieces as well, because sometimes they can be found I call them the sidelines. So you've got your direct line, which is parents and grandparents and great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, blah, 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 all the way up. But then you have the sidelines, which are their siblings. And sometimes they provide the clues that you need to help you keep moving up. In DNA matches, I have found information for my direct tree from the sidelines, from a cousin, a distant, like a third or a fifth cousin. They've given me the detail because we go up to the grandparent we have in common, and they might provide me with details for that great grandparent that we have in common, and that helps me find that next step. So sometimes you've got to go sideways to keep growing your main trunk line. And your practical takeaway for today is approach erased stories with empathy rather than judgment. Don't judge them for the decisions they have to make. You don't know what circumstances, what things were like back then for them. You're looking at it from today with all the technology and stuff we have today. You have to remember, we didn't have all that technology. They didn't have all that technology that many years ago. They lived, they might have lived on a ranch somewhere or a farm or in the poor part of town or in the rich part of town. We don't know what their circumstances was. So we can't judge them for the decisions that they made based on the circumstances they were going through at the time. All we can do is approach it with empathy. And if you want help navigating sensitive discoveries, just send us a PM private message and we will help you set up a free, no obligation discovery call so we can perhaps get you on the right path to helping you find those missing details that you're looking for. And in closing, understanding matters more than exposure. And with that, we are out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys.